Fight Club in '99. There could have been a scene between Tyler Durden and what's the other guy's name? Chuck?
Yeah.
No.
Not Chuck.
Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. I mean, you could have seen something happen like that.
Well, narcissism in and of itself.
There you go.
Is a love of
Who
self.
better to love than yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Fast and the Furious. A lot of homoeroticism going there. A lot of muscles.
Okay, a lot of.
The Hobbit trilogy. Wow.
He said the Hobbit
trilogy.
All
those dwarves.
I'm gonna go through these.
Muscly dwarves. Cave diving.
Wait, Joey.
Not all that's in those mountains. A lot of hard rocks.
I think no, Joey. I don't know if they edited it out on The Hobbit.
All right, welcome to another episode of Do You See What I Mean? In our Oscars run-up heading to March 15th. Mia, the day that we know the Academy Awards will happen, we're going to drop a couple of special episodes. We have a couple really cool episodes for season 2 as well, but we're going to do 2 special episodes this season. The first is today's, and we've called it Sexless Edits in Cinema, 5 films that edit out sex. And we're going to talk about why that happened and if the films could have been better if they had kept it in. So Mia has chosen 4 films. I've chosen 1, and then we're going to talk about some honorable mentions. But Mia, this was a really great topic. I loved the general idea. I think it's a ton of fun and applicable to so many movies. But give us sort of the background and what we mean by sexless edits.
Okay, so we're talking about films where they have this romance or sexual identity, gender identity, sex scenes. All of that is kind of like either edited out, smoothed over, just brought down from the original material or from its inspiration. Because let's face it, sometimes Hollywood flinches. Okay. They don't want to offend people. They don't want to turn off a huge audience. And you're going to find like a lot of these movies are very like award nominated. But sometimes, I think there are some cases where filmmakers just want to say something without having to talk about sex. And so...
Or it could be the time period, right? Some of the stuff is from the 80s and 90s, and maybe the film wouldn't gotten made. Does that have something to do with it, too?
Well, sometimes, you have these people who will go watch an action movie, and they'll be like, why they have to have a love story in there? And it's that moment where it's like, hey, sometimes you didn't need the love story. You do have a story to tell. It may not be leading to the love of your life, but it led you to your truth, or
it helps the narrative along
path.
Somehow.
Exactly. Yeah. We were like, let's take a look at films, and a lot of these came out at a time where, our descriptors that we use today, are you binary, non-binary? A lot of these things, fluid. Are you?
It's all new.
It's all very new. So some of these things we didn't have a language for back then, but it doesn't mean like people didn't exist. So as long as human beings have been around, we have all pursued our identities, our sexualities, our romantic futures. We've all done it very differently.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I love it. Okay, so 5 films that edited out sex. Mia, what is film number 1?
Okay, so this one was the first one that came to mind to me, which was The Color Purple.
Okay.
You know what? I grew up on The Color Purple. It came out December 1985, okay. It was directed by Steven Spielberg.
Old Steve.
It's based off of a book by Alice Walker. It stars your favorites, Whoopi Goldberg, Danny Glover, Oprah Winfrey. You've got Margaret Avery. You've got Ray Don Chung. You have Lawrence Fishburne.
I know, Larry Fishburne setting up the jukes on it.
And that's just to name a few.
Yep.
Big stars in this film. It ran for 2 hours and 30 minutes.
I know.
It had music by Quincy Jones. It was hot. But the film is based on this book, same title. It depicts the life of an African-American young girl in rural community. It's post-Civil War America, okay? But the film follows the life of Celie, and she tries to navigate child loss, marriage, friendship, abuse, family. And it's all told through her intimate writing to her long lost sister. We follow her as she navigates life and longing in Reconstruction era Georgia. Okay.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it should feel fresh. No,
For
I'm
sure.
kidding. But anyways, but this film, okay, so it introduces Shug, played by Margaret Avery, which is Celie Whoopi Goldberg's husband's lifelong mistress. And the two of them, like, they don't hit it off immediately in the film, but later on, this huge friendship develops.
Right.
You get a song that's dedicated to it, about sisters,
Yep.
and sisterly love. But it is not the narrative of the book. In the book, these two are lovers. They
Yep.
are friends. They are companions for life. And so the edit here is like sort of an edit, but you still get kiss, you still get sensuality, you
Sure.
still get intimacy in this film. So you didn't feel like, wait, where's the romance? The romance there,
That
but
felt covered.
it's
Yeah.
sort of titled under sisterhood.
Yeah.
So
So tell us what was edited out.
I mean, okay, so in the story, in fact, they did, of course, the new Color Purple, I think, captured the musical. It
Right.
captures it so much better. These two start being romantically inclined,
Right.
like almost as soon as they connect, right? It's not like it's like huge sex scenes edited out, but you do get the sense that these are not women that are just friends. They have friends throughout the story,
Right.
but their relationship is much deeper and much more profound. But they still do it with marital partners
Sure.
and whatnot, so it doesn't read as traditional. It doesn't like, it's not a silent lesbian for the book, but it doesn't scream that for the movie.
For the movie. Yeah.
What were you experiencing it when you watched it?
Well, I'm so glad that this was one of your picks because it's been a long time since I revisited this. I was an English major in college, an American Lit major, and read it in school and remember being eyebrow raised at the lesbian sexuality. Essentially, Celie is this highly oppressed woman who was never taught anything about her sexuality except that it belongs to men. I mean, she is 10 and 12 when she is serially raped by who she thinks is her father. Later we find out it's her stepfather. Then she has these kids and they're taken away from her, but she has to raise other people's kids. I mean, it was so wild watching this, how men could have sex whenever and with whomever,
Right.
zero consequences, but then those men who were subjecting these women to undue promiscuity would then criticize the women. There's all these gross comments about, oh, she's just a woman who has her legs open. I mean, and the men are the ones who are perpetrating this. So she meets Shug, who's a singer, and Shug becomes her sexual teacher and teaches her about her body, teaches her how to kiss, tells her you don't have to cover your mouth. I mean, I was thinking there's such a role of identity and one woman teaching another woman, here's how sex is part of your identity and it is okay. And this is what your clitoris looks like. And there's all this exploration. It's 1981 or whenever Spielberg is starting to talk about this, and he talked to Alice Walker a long time. I mean, there's no way that you could include this in a 1985, 1986 movie. I mean, my first experience of the rewatch is that it's a sweeping epic on the scale of Gone with the Wind, on the scale of Titanic, on the scale of Sinners. We're going to come back to Sinners because this is kind of a blueprint for it. But I mean, for one, I would love to have seen the film that did not edit this sex out. I know they did a musical. I kind of wish they just would have redone it with the sex in. But to me, I mean...
I think
I would watch it.
There's so many important themes that show up in this film. So I do think there's this sort of balance where you want to play the sexual elements just right. It's not just a film about women and how women had to survive with a certain amount of ingenuity back during this day. It's also talking about, women's place in marriage. You have the character of Oprah Winfrey plays where she's just like incredibly, strong. And there's this dynamic where she's not supposed to be. And you see even her journey has one where, it's not about her sexuality that's being limited or edited out, but her confidence is
Yep.
is like toned down. So there's these elements of the film where I was like, was it bad that they edited it out, or did we lose something and edited it out? I wish they had put more into this film.
Yeah.
But I still think it's such an amazing film, and maybe because of when I saw it, you don't miss the romance.
You didn't miss it. Yeah.
The romance is so there, and
Yeah.
it's so forward.
Well, thinking back to Hollywood, the 1910s, teens, 20s, it was a raunchy time in Hollywood, and they were making films with gangsters and featuring sex, and that's when the moral rights came up and introduced the Hays Code, which came out in 26, wasn't really enforced until 31 and 32, which outlawed anything sexual, anything homosexual. But then you go forward another 50 years to the mid-'80s, and even if Spielberg had included a scene of, let's say, the two characters kissing, and then they're leaning back toward the bed, and
Yeah.
the camera pans toward the drapes, the windows, that's
Right,
a common
right,
trope.
yeah.
Could that have worked? I don't even think so. I bet you the Christian or Catholic right
I
would
don't
have
think it
risen
would've.
up against this film.
They would have,
And
it would have been really problematic.
right. It
Yeah.
was problematic, as we were talking about before, about Spielberg, a white Jewish man in Hollywood. He was kind of big in Hollywood because Jaws was 11 years prior, 1975. He's a big director.
He did Indiana Jones the year before.
Oh my God.
Okay.
And then The Color Purple.
And
How
then he
wild
did The
is
Color
that?
Purple, and
Yeah.
then he did Empire of the Sun with Christian
Oh,
Bale.
yes,
And
about
then he
China.
did another Indiana Jones. This guy was being given great budgets.
Yes, for sure.
And
for sure.
great stars to work with.
So I wonder if it's sort of like a Martin Scorsese Killers of the Flower Moon scenario where you have a white man going into an indigenous community or a non-white community telling their stories, but they're doing it he did it in partnership with the Osage people. And I mean, I've seen those production photos of Spielberg doing it with Alice Walker. So if it was a black director, maybe the film wouldn't have gotten made.
I don't
But
think it
what
was
do you-
about that. And
Okay.
I think there is an element where this is an American film.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Deeply.
talking about
Deeply
a
American.
very specific. It's like it's like an unapologetic look at the South post Civil War. I mean, even when you look at the cinematography, it feels. I mean, we were talking about this. Out of Africa won the best picture for this year. This cinematography for this film is just
It's incredible.
amazing
It's
and
beautiful.
incredible.
It's sweeping. It is an epic. And then you have the score by Quincy Jones,
Right.
which is a very Hollywood score. I'll be honest. The score was almost too Hollywood for the content. You would have Oprah huffing down the road, and the score is like doom, boom, doom, boom, doom, boom.
But
It's
back
ki-
then, it
it's-
was feeling just so. It felt more epic, and it felt like
Epic.
this
Yeah, it
big
does.
story to be
Yeah.
told. I like the way they told this,
Yeah.
and I sometimes feel like I think sometimes when films roll through. We had to get a black director. We had to get this person
Yeah.
to do it. Sometimes it gets too sanitized. Sometimes we don't want to show certain things, or we want to, if we're going to put it out to America, we want to put it out in our best dress, and we want to depict the community a certain way. I think this film is unflinching. It is beautiful. It still is something that people say lines from,
Yep.
as jokes and as, conversations, and we all know what we're referencing. I think this film was really, it had the right director. It had the right
That's
director,
great
but
to
I do
hear.
remember
Yeah.
back then it had a lot of backlash about it, but I think there's always going to be some kind of complaint.
For sure. There is. Yeah. It's Oscar season, and it's the hope of this podcast that the winner of the 98th annual Best Picture Award does go to Sinners, which is a story about 1932 Mississippi, shot in Louisiana, whereas this film takes place in Georgia, but it's in that same 10s, 20s, 30s milieu. And there's a juke joint in Color Purple, which I kind of forgot about. And it was such a nice blueprint for Sinners, and it really feels like Sinners is honoring this film. In fact, in this film, The Color Purple, what does Suge say at the end? Even sinners have souls?
Even sinners have souls.
I mean,
Sinners have souls too.
Sinners have souls too, yeah. Just
You know what? It's also one of those films. Here's the interesting part, because sometimes you'll get, like, Danny Glover plays Mista, and he is such a villain.
scary, man. I've never seen him that scary.
But it's well acted, and it's well acted in a tone of, like, toxic misogyny, which
For
I
sure.
think is incredibly
Hard-boiled.
I don't think it's, in other words, I know some people who had some issue with this film in terms of how black men were depicted. But I think
yes.
this
I read
film
about some of that
talks
coverage.
quite a bit about what men have to endure in
Right.
terms of misogyny and the role that they have to put on and pretend to be. And you see Danny Glover really play this role with a lot of tenderness.
Yeah.
But when you watch it, he is the villain. But
He is, and he's terrible.
But here's the thing: he did it so well. A lot of times, actors back in those days did not recover from these roles.
That's a great point.
They would be typecasted to play
great
that
point.
time and time again. But I think with Danny Glover, he just knew all of the right tones to hit.
It's an incredible performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it just, even by the time you get to the end and he's kind of redeeming himself, there's these moments where he cowers a little bit throughout the film. And I was like, he really did a really beautiful job.
He did. In fact, all the players did. I mean, you've never seen a Whoopi Goldberg performance like this. We all kind of know that she and Oprah are in this film, but two incredible performances that are so different and are also so different from their public personas. It's really, really worth rewatching, especially in A Sinner's Year.
But it also makes you go like, wait a minute, they made this with $15 million?
Oh my gosh.
What was everybody getting paid?
Yep.
I mean, you look at these names, and the film brought in almost 100 million, 98.4
It's
million.
incredible. Yeah, what a great story.
It's also a time period where people made movies that made money in the box office.
Yeah.
But this film was nominated for 11 Academy Awards. It took home 0. So that's Best Picture, Actress, Supporting Actress for Oprah and Margaret Avery, Costume, Cinematography, you name it. It got nominated. It did win Best Director for Spielberg at the Directors Guild of America. And then Whoopi Goldberg got a Golden Globe.
Yeah.
This was her Golden Globe. So,
but that's an interesting comment, too.
along with 2 NAACP awards. Yes,
awards.
I do remember they performed at a few of the awards ceremonies for singing these songs.
Right.
Quincy Jones. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, we hope that shutout for Color Purple isn't reflected with Sinners, which got 16 Academy Award nominations, making it the most nominated films of all time. Got about 6 more weeks to wait till that happens. But I hope it gets more recognition than Color Purple did, which it deserved. It should have been Best Picture. It should have been Best Director. It should have been Best Actress. So we hope those results are different this year.
You've got a few films that are somewhat similar or popular around the same time. So The Women of Brewster's Place. For some of y'all who remember the scenes with the walls needing to come down. Interesting film. And you also have Fried Green Tomatoes. That came out,
another classic.
Yeah, came out a few years later, which actually is our next film to
That's
talk
our
about.
next film.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover that right after this break. So that was The Color Purple. Mia, tell us what is next on our Sexless Edits and Cinema.
Well, like I was saying, we've got Fried Green Tomatoes. It came out in December of 1991. Okay, John Avnet is a director. I don't know. You've got Fanny Flagg and Carol Sobieski. These are the writers behind this film. It's starring Kathy Bates. Jessica Tandy, of course, Mary Stuart Masterson, Mary Louise Parker, and Cicely Tyson. And yes, this film it's a story of a middle-aged housewife who befriends an elderly lady, at a nursing home. You're going to understand what I'm talking about. She's unhappy in her marriage, She finds herself a frequent visitor. She is just waiting every day to find out what is happening in these tales, because this elderly lady keeps telling stories of, these women who are just so empowered in the past. The film goes on to depict the life of two women who run a cafe down in Jim Crow, Alabama. Okay, so
she's one of them, right? Jessica Tandy?
Okay, I'm going to ask you at the end, because at the end, there's this element where I'm like, are you her? And that's the question Kathy Bates has.
Yeah.
Are you her? And she's like, I don't know. Sometimes she comes out and visits. And you're like, you don't get that flat answer, so I was going to ask you that. But the relationship edit on this one is you've got Iggy and Ruth. These are the two ladies running the cafe. Right. They cohabitate. They help raise Ruth's son. They have such lovable chemistry and devotion. They are highly protective of each other, which you kind of understand throughout the film. And today they resemble like your strongest couples that you could ever find in the public. Okay, like they're amazing. But this film does not define them as a couple. You once again are given the best friend of your life story.
Right.
And
especially the two women.
Yes.
Helping each other during this time.
Yes.
They're just two women, and one has a husband,
right,
which we'll get into.
And it isn't completely quiet. There is a sort of hint at Iggy being, she's more gender bending and more, more of that tomboy. But there is kind of an understanding that she's going with the rough and tumble and non-Christian crowd. And so you're kind of left to believe she's just like, off on her own, planet. But the relationship between these two is literally undeniable when you watch it as an adult. When you're a kid, you're just like, I hope I have best friends too. It's beautiful. So you watched this film as a kid as well and as an adult. What were you thinking when you watched it?
Back then, I was horrified at the super tragic death in the beginning of Chris O'Donnell. This is set it's partly in the modern day, so it's Kathy Bates, like you said, Jessica Tandy. And Jessica Tandy's telling stories about the 20s and 30s back in Whistle Stop, Alabama. And one of the girls has this crush on, it's a crush, right? Or is he the brother? Anyway,
he's the brother.
Chris O'Donnell is the brother, remember, from Robin, of Batman and Robin, and he gets his boot stuck in the train tracks, and he's killed in that train, and those tracks provide that gothic sort of sense of danger and time. We keep going back to those train tracks throughout the story.
Oh yeah,
so
that's so true.
Horrified at that, and back in my teenage self, I didn't clock any lesbian theme. I just thought that they were two women supporting each other. One woman is more of a tomboy. The other woman gets married to an alcoholic, abusive husband.
Right. That does muddy it for that era where you're seeing one married to a man, and you go, well, she's clearly heterosexual.
Right.
But it just, we don't have today's frame of, I think I've heard women talk about, as they discovered their own sexual preferences were same sex, they're like, hey, I just thought that that's what I was supposed to do, is like date and be with men. Right. I never really examined my own sexual preferences or even my own romantic preferences.
But looking back, they do code them both. One is coded as lesbian, and the other may be bisexual, but you don't really know. And they just like Color Purple, actually, it's women supporting women in a highly abusive and systematically oppressed society. The KKK shows up.
The Klan is there the whole time. Yeah, of course.
This is not the world that we know today, and you hear about women who, even if they're married later in life, maybe they have a second life with a best friend or a neighbor, but these are two women that kind of get together early when they're young and they're running this cafe, and they can't even have that. They can't, people will not let them people will not let black people or women have nice things. They will be taken away.
It's almost like they want them to fit into the town, right? And I think Ruth has that capacity. And that's how the cafe really runs, with this sort of like, okay, she presents what we expect from women, but at the same time, there's an element of Iggy that's got the she has a different lens in the town where it's not as, I don't want to say, she almost seems to be more capable of going toe to toe with the men.
Yeah.
And she's very confident in that. And she's found a really charming way to do it. They seem very okay about it. So I feel like they do get on pretty well.
Yeah,
they do get on pretty well. I think there isn't really a question of are they able to live together?
Yeah.
Are they able to run this business together? I think it's more of a question of, did they take the sex out? Are these women sleeping together as well, sharing a bed?
Part of what really envelops you as you watch this is this sense of home and warmth. I mean, you can feel the humidity in the air. You see sweat on foreheads. You see grass against legs. You hear the rushing of the river. This is a very sensual, naturalistic film. And there's the scene with the two women having the food fight, and they're covering each other with chocolate and flour, and then the man interrupts them. But that's almost the surrogate sex scene for the audience. And if that had turned into a kiss, narratively, it would have felt very natural.
Right.
But this is also 1991.
Yeah.
So,
everybody would have been.
So Spielberg's Color Purple could not have come out with a lesbian sex scene, or could have come out and gotten panned. Do you think this would have happened too if you gave us a makeout in the kitchen, and then they're leaning toward the floor, and then the camera pans away? Could that have worked? Would it have gotten? Yeah, it could have been released, but would that have gone too far?
I think there's a few things that was going on back in those days. Number one, what your film was rated, right? And so there are some things that would move your film from being that PG-13 to the rated R.
Right.
It could definitely limit your film. So the question is, would sex have served telling a more romantic story? I think in this case, the performances are so full of chemistry and romance. You almost don't need it.
I mean,
these two are so protective of each other. They are so gentle with one another. As an adult, I look at it and I'm like, damn, they don't tell romantic stories like this anymore.
I know, you were saying that the other day. Movies that have heart, movies that have simple characters, movies that feature... It was a different time. The edit pacing was much slower. There were more dolly and crane shots versus handheld shots. There was a sweeping, smooth, just kind of lived-in quality to these that is just... I mean, it felt like the whole movie cast felt like a family. I felt like I was in their kind of warm embrace.
Oh yeah, and quickly. I mean, very quickly, right? Right away, they seem like there's a great connection. It's not that it's almost like as a kid, you kind of look at it more of like how women who do not apologize for being who they are. This is the life that you're going to live. It's going to have adventure. You're going to have obstacles. You're going to have, if you get to do it with one of your favorite people, this is great. As an adult, I still keep those themes, but I see so much wonderful romance between these two characters and how they kind of set out to, in a sense, rescue each other. Because remember, Ruth shows up with the idea of she's here to rescue Iggy. And ultimately, Iggy is the one who rescues Ruth. It's a very sweet story.
It is. And one of the profound points is how happy Jessica Tandy is at the end of her life.
Yeah.
We've seen characters who look back wistfully at the love that they met but couldn't have for life. But she's the brightest thing in this movie, and there's such a lesson in that. I don't know, how did she find happiness throughout her whole life with her? Because, spoiler warning,
if you haven't seen
which is Mary Louise Parker's character.
Yes, Ruth.
So Ruth gets cancer and fucking dies.
Right.
So not only does Iggy meet this woman, helps this woman out of this marriage, the husband is transitioned, and then she loses her.
That's what we say,
transition. And then you've got Jessica Tandy, who's just like bright as a button.
If Jessica Tandy is Iggy, you would also know that she raised her son.
That's right.
Continued to run a restaurant and had a wonderful life. But if you think about it, remember Ruth is kicked out when she's pregnant. Yes. They raised this kid. Yes. Right. From almost the very beginning. So it's not like Ruth and her son showed up. This was kind of their kid.
That's right.
And so it's actually quite interesting when you think about it that way. But they raised a kid together. That's if she's Iggy. If she's someone who just observed this
story.
then we really never learned anything about Jessica Tandy's character. But it's fun. It's fun to see also Kathy Bates in this film discovering her own empowerment, and who did not finish this film screaming to Wanda,
Oh my Absolutely.
But there were some other really fun things about this film. Number one, it was made for $11 million. Wow. And it went on to make almost $120 million. So that's really amazing. Yeah. It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards. It won an outstanding film for GLAAD. And also Motion Picture Composer Award with BMI, which I was like, I love the music
Thomas
from this.
Newman. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So he's very famous for American Beauty. He's like a James Horner, Alan Silvestri, just a classical composer. I wrote down French horn with this. There's just love.
It feels epic.
Sweeping, classical, early Americana orchestration and sounds, and it really lovingly helps tell this story. It's a beautiful soundtrack too. You know what I kind of confuse this movie with sometimes, which is silly because it's a different time frame, but the Winona Ryder one, How to Make an American Quilt.
Right. So that's one I would recommend.
Time frame, isn't it?
I would say it's a little later. It's very later. It's when I think a lot of interesting suburbs were developing out in California. So it's a different vibe, but they basically kind of go back in time quite a bit. You get a lot of time travel as the older women are telling their stories about their past and how they found love. And so How to Make an American Quilt is a great recommendation. Steel Magnolias was another down south and robust women's story, and you've got Loss as well in there. And I think that what's interesting about those films is we look at them as these women are dealing with the threat of men rules, like how men kind of rule in their lives and rule in their towns. But there are some films that have sex edited out that are more looking at male gaze and how men's choice can make a huge difference. Good point. Silence of the Lambs ended up being my third. Because if you watch this film when it came out, which was in 1991, it just scared the shit out of you. It was really scary. But when you watch it now and today, and you're watching Jodie Foster, who's a very young FBI agent who has to go to these very male-dominated spaces, I kept thinking about all the complaints that women in tech talk about, which is just wanting to be taken seriously, wanting to be respected for your work, and not wanting to be looked at for just a pair of tits. And so this film starred Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, Ted Levine. You have a few others like Scott Glenn, who plays the head of the FBI, and then you've got Anthony Held and Brooke Smith. Which if she's our highly sympathetic victim.
Absolutely.
Trapped down in the hole. Yeah. But this film, essentially, the edits for this are a little different from the book. So the book that this is based off of, same title, essentially is still dealing with Clarice, but she is not as self-assured. And she not only deals with need to be respected in her very male-dominated space, she's also having to deal with the gaze, and she is not as comfortable. She is not as confident. It really rips at her. So she is sent to go deal with Hannibal Lecter, and you feel like in the film Clarice is completely in control and she is here to get the information she needs. But in the book, it is a little different. She is actually having a little bit of an erotic exchange with Hannibal Lecter. He is demanding that she give him information about herself, and as she's asking him for advice on finding this killer. But as time goes on, she finds herself very, very kind of like excited to be around him. Titillated. I mean, the guy is, sophisticated, educated, very good. He was a very good doctor in his field, and he's chosen her to reveal all of this information. He thinks she's cool, special, interesting. And this is someone who did not think of themselves as interesting. They think of themselves as boring.
Very plain.
Very plain. Yeah. She's actually very ashamed about her class being poor. So the scene where he's like, oh, you came in with your cheap shoes,
From your double blind.
Yeah. That really hammers home.
He instantly goes and pinpoints those nerves,
So what's going on is a lot of erotic sharing and exchange, and they actually are excited about one another. And in fact, when there's the scene in the film where she goes to see him and she wants her last bit of details, you got to tell me more. And you see her he's passing her the paperwork and their fingers just slightly glide. And if you're watching the film, you're kind of just like, what the hell is going on here? It just seems psychologically a little above your pay grade, but it's also creepy.
And there's something about her performance that goes back to Taxi Driver, playing a woman in these times when women's roles were hypersexualized, not just by virtue of existence, but by the men specifically. But yet in her character and her persona, there's a low sexuality.
Yeah.
I mean, in Taxi Driver, she plays a Midwestern implant. Yeah, she's kind of oblivious to it. Even here, I wrote down so her boss, Scott Glenn, kind of has sexual comments toward her. Dr. Lecter, the psychopathic serial killer. Honestly, the psych prison doctor, he's so gross. Nice. How long you're in Baltimore? It can be a pretty fun town. She goes to investigate the moths, and the moth expert has a cop colleague. He tries to hit on her. Yeah. And then there's Miggs, who is crazy, but he also, throws his semen at her. Yeah. But the way that she is hit on by these guys is not a gentle Brooklyn bar. Hey, what are you doing?
Bar.
It's not. Hey, would you want to get a drink sometime?
They're staring her up or down.
The eyes are wide. The pupils are it's like she's a rabbit and they are wolves, which kind of aligns with the director's theme of you're hunting a killer while you are being hunted. I mean, before you proposed this, I had no idea there was so much sexuality in The Silence of the Lambs, because it is creepy. It's scary. You think, oh, it's a serial killer movie. Yeah. But she is being predated on from moment one.
Right.
And
But you lose some of that if she's kind of being turned on in these sessions, right? And that's where I'm like, this might have been an okay sex edit for me.
Right. So if they had highlighted more of how she was engaged or heightened or titillated or anything like that, it's a different movie.
It's a very different movie.
Yeah.
It's a very different one. Oh. And I think it's sort of funny how, Jodie Foster is kind of the perfect, because they do another a Hannibal film and they switch it out with Julianne Moore, and quite frankly, I just couldn't get into it. And it's not like Julianne Moore is a bad actress.
No, I know.
Come on. But there's something about what Jodie Foster does.
She made it so iconic. I can't even think of anybody else who could be in that role.
Yeah. There's some other interesting elements to it too, because this film got a little flack with our serial killer Buffalo Bill. He is portrayed as being more in the direction of like being a transsexual.
Right.
And I think it was really quite lovely that they left in this film that he is not a transsexual. That is not what he is. In fact, Jodie Foster explains, like, they're actually not violent, typically. These are not personalities that are, aggressive in these ways. Exactly. So what's going on? But you get that iconic scene of him dancing and moving.
Yes, and tucking.
And tucking. And it just sort of
funny.
confuses, like, what is he really after?
Yeah.
And in the book, he's more portrayed as someone who's just trying to, like, transform and pull his entire
This is a
identity.
super interesting point, and I do think this holds up today, but this is really incendiary for 91, I think. So there's the thought that he wants to be trans because he has applied for sex reassignment surgery at 3 different university hospitals and been rejected. So he
Right.
does not qualify. And what he's doing is he's capturing these women, starving them, having them lotion their skin so it's loose, and then removing their skin and then wearing it because he wants to transform. And then that ties in the death's head moth, because the moth transforms and he kills these women and he puts the moth in the throat, and that's why you get the iconic poster of Jodie Foster's face with the dead, moth. But it's about transformation, but he's misguided. And so there's this whole trans subplot that I think they handled pretty well, honestly, pretty
They speak
respectfully
through
for
it.
1991. They
They speak
speak
through
through
it
it. They
very
don't really get,
Yeah, they speak through it
That
really
is
well.
a fascinating part of this film.
And I think that's really appreciated. It's like, but still the kind of imagery of it for your general public
Yes.
in 1991, I don't think they were picking up on those explanations.
I agree.
I think that there was still enough there where they were kind of going, deviation.
Yes.
That is something to be afraid of.
Yes.
And so, like I said, this film got a little bit of backlash a few years ago in discussing this very topic. But like I said, I think for 1991, they handled it quite smoothly.
I totally agree. There's some just really great filming and production. There's a scene, there are many scenes when Starling is talking to Lecter when he is behind bars. But this one edit, it was in the scene when he's in that funny prison in the middle of a gym in the small town. He's been transported.
Right.
It's before the scene of huge violence when he escapes. And they're shooting a conversation through the bars. So you're looking through the bars at Lecter, then you're looking through the bars at Starling, and you go back and forth a couple of times, and then you sort of forget who's behind bars. And that's just a really nice cinematographical choice that supports the story. It's not just a cool shot, it supports the story. Who's imprisoning who here? Because you do get the sense that Lecter has the upper hand in all of these. And also, Lecter doesn't want to fuck her, but he's constantly bringing up her sexuality to her to kind of destabilize her.
And I think she almost explains that a little bit, almost like they were like, why do you think he's not going to come after you? And she's like, I think for him that would just kind of be rude. And I think in sense, like, trying to sleep with her or whatever, that just seems like not necessary here.
Right.
He's quite sophisticated in that
He is.
way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's another kind of like a romantic element where you're just like, no one imagines walking in. It's no different than if you went and talked to a therapist and a patient kind of fell in love with a therapist.
Right.
But it's a similar dynamic, I think, for the book.
And Jonathan Demme, he did Married to the Mob. He did Philadelphia, which is a gorgeous film. Manchurian's Candidate, Rachel Getting Married. Sex factors into his films, but he does not sexualize his characters. This is 91. Let's go in a different direction. You've got Adrian Lyne making Fatal Attraction. You have Paul Verhoeven in a couple years making Basic Instinct. Those are films that sexualize the female actress and the character. This one talks about sex, but she's not sexualized. The camera doesn't linger on Jodie Foster. No. She's just wearing boxy blazers. Yeah. She just likes the olive green and the helicopter. There's nothing. The film doesn't make her like this sexy bombshell. The film respects her own sexual. It's just a very smart film by a smart director and a killer performance by Foster. Just a great addition.
And it won, was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, but it won 5. Best Picture, Best Director.
This is the only horror film that has won Best Picture.
Yeah, you've got Best Actor for Hopkins, you've got Best Actress for Foster, and Best Adapted Screenplay. Right. So I do think they kind of hit this film on the money. I still can watch it today, and I still get scared.
I know, it is creepy.
It is still scary, because by the time she's doing the dark glasses and walking through, I always have to walk away and mute. It's just like, oh my God. But he also knows it's over. It's such an interesting choice to end the film on.
Yes, you know what a companion to this is, which I also think doesn't sexualize this female lead. I mean, it's kind of the spiritual child of it. Is The Cell, the Tarsum film with Jennifer Lopez and Vincent D'Onofrio.
The Cell, yeah.
So that is very similar to this. Yeah. It's a creepy guy going after women, and it's Jennifer Lopez, who is a gorgeous woman, but she's not sexualized, and she's treated for her brain. I think this is a great genre, in that regard. Well, so you wouldn't have needed to see any more sex in Silence of the Lambs.
Like one conjugal visit, like.
Or what if she like hooked up with a guy at a bar or something? I mean,
no,
you don't need any of it.
Can I be honest? I sometimes get tired of that.
Yeah.
I get really tired of that. It sort of turns the women into sort of this trope of like, I love my job so much, but I can't connect with real people, so I'm going to go to a bar, sleep with someone, and then go back to work. I know it's meant to kind of paint them as hyper-focused, and it's supposed to paint them as almost, unflinching at their goals. But to me, sometimes it's just like an overkill. There are a lot of people who still perform that and have kids and, husbands and whatnot at home. And it's just like, I get over it a little bit.
I hear that.
It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to say that, because it's like, is there... you ask this question like, hey, did you need a sex scene with her, with a random guy at a bar, or even a colleague or whatever? My answer is like, no. She was such a great agent.
Yes.
And
professional.
Still entertaining. And, quite frankly, all we know is her parents died, and she hates seeing lambs get killed.
That's right. Lambs at the slaughter.
We didn't really learn all that much about her outside of that.
That's true. Limited backstory. Yep.
But interesting enough, that leads us to fourth film.
Yes. Before we take a break, tell us what our number 4 film is.
We're going to talk about A Few Good Men.
Oh, that's a great one. You can't handle the boobs.
We can handle the truth, you guys. We can handle the truth.
All right, welcome back. We're talking about sexless edits in cinema, films that gained a lot of notoriety and edited out some of the sex. So we've been through Color Purple, Fried Green Tomatoes, Silence of the Lamb. Yeah, what do we have next?
We are talking about A Few Good Men. Hello. This film came out December of 1992, okay?
Okay, so in that early 90s time frame still.
It's directed by Rob Reiner.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
One of the greatest American filmmakers.
It is written by Aaron Sorkin. Okay, so it stars Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore. You've got Kevin Bacon.
Oh, that's right.
You have Kiefer Sutherland. Okay,
oh, yes.
So this film was about 2 hours, 18 minutes. And when I tell you, okay, it's based off of, the whole story is it's 2 naval officers. They are charged with the murder of a fellow Marine, okay? But they are assigned to a Navy lawyer with no courtroom experience. This guy is just always settling out of court. Tom Cruise, yes. And the defense is that they're trying to carry out is this code red, which was like The Devil Made Me Do It, which is Jack Nicholson. I'm kidding. I'm confusing people. They're basically like saying, hey, our boss told us to do this. That's the code red, okay? This film is a courtroom drama, okay? You've got 3 attorneys, and they are assisting this case and taking on the most powerful commanders at Guantanamo Bay.
Yes, that's right. I forgot it's Guantanamo Bay.
But originally, this film was written, according to Demi Moore in her autobiography titled Inside Out. It was written to include a romance that takes place between Demi Moore's character and Tom Cruise's character.
So they're colleagues, but the original idea had them
as colleagues at all times.
Right,
and then one night on a heated, steamy, we're preparing for court night, they're supposed to go, you know what, like,
was this the studio?
You want to smash?
Was this the studio looking at these 2 highly bankable stars and wanting to raise ticket prices, or?
This is just the recipe for back then. Like, you had a film, and if you did not include a hot chick and a dude kind of realizing they were made for each other. It was like you missed a piece.
Right.
But Demi Moore says that she got that script and she was so excited to do the role, and of course she was like, trying to study and understand what women in the military, specifically in the Navy, what are their lives like? How do they have to carry themselves? And she was like, look, this sort of hookup does not make sense.
Yep.
Like, my character is a woman functioning in a very, very male world. She is already, trying to make a statement and grow in her career. She's not fixing to throw that away.
Right.
Sleeping with another attorney. And she also felt like there was a respect element to it, like women in the military, there's definitely a lot of, in the last few years, talks about the numbers of sexual assaults and crimes that take place against women in the military. She was just like, this is just not the message we want to send.
Well, and we just talked about Clarice Starling and the 5 or 6 guys who are ogling her and treating her like prey. And yeah, this is that era where women in government or military were constantly subjected to this. I'm thinking of G.I. Jane. That was only 6 years later than this. G.I. Jane, where she plays that historic, was it a Marine? Navy SEAL?
She's
training to be one of the first female. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that tracks with some of her. Well, good for her that she.
Watch it. If you're watching the film, you feel this chemistry.
Yeah,
there's this like a little. There's a little moment of like, oh, are they made for each other? Is she able to call him on his shit? Is he like able to call her on hers? Is there an attraction going on here? So I remember watching it the first time and thinking like, oh yeah, they don't get together. You kind of were at some point thinking that's where. It was noticeable. It was noticeable for you as well?
Well, I'm trying to think. I haven't seen it in so long. I just remember so much bluster in this film. I remember her being a breath of fresh air because you have Tom Cruise yelling, you have Jack Nicholson yelling. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a procedural, I'm not a courtroom film guy. Even 12 Angry Men, I'm just not into the courtroom. The Verdict with Paul Newman, great film. I'm not out of the courtroom. So this loses me a little bit in that regard, but it has that Rob Reiner quality of just really good bones of a good story and an incredible ensemble cast. I mean, like you said,
and it's people who are going into this space where their integrity is getting tested.
Yes, their personal integrity. And this is also a closed community, right? This is not a public trial. This is happening within the military. Right. So it's a body policing itself, which can get very murky, and the walls are closed. So you can decide what verdict you want. Yeah.
But you get that iconic moment of Jack Nicholson on the stand, and those are, I'm not the biggest Sorkin fan, okay?
No, me neither.
But I will say, kind of creating these scenes where people who normally don't crack, between him and Tom Cruise, they really nail it. I mean, there's a dynamic to the buildup of that where you're thinking, he's not going to get him. That man's ready to get back on his plane and get back to his base. And Tom Cruise is like, I'm not done yet. Yeah, and there's this tension about it that you just like, it's undeniable. And I'm like, this one is one of the best courtroom dramas out there.
No, it does stand out.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if it had gone the other way, if they hadn't edited out that sexual plot, so Demi and Tom, they have sex, they hook up, does that mean that I'm trying to think, how would that end? Would it be like him having a conversation with another officer, and then he goes to the car, she's in the car, and they drive away?
And they kiss off, and they kiss and like throw their briefcases in the back.
But that would have kind of ruined it, wouldn't it have?
No, or they give each other a wink as it's like, you're heading out, I'll see you at the gate.
See you at home or something. Yeah.
No, because there is that closing scene with the two naval officers who are like, what had happened?
Right.
Is that how it went? It's like what happened? Oh, come on, Willie. We were supposed to defend those who couldn't defend themselves.
Right.
And you get this little scene, but after that, we don't really need anything else from this movie.
No, it's true. It's true. It would have diverted focus. But I'm proud of Demi. I mean, honestly, looking at her other filmography from the 90s, I mean, it's just on fire. You have The Juror, Disclosure, Scarlet Letter, If These Walls Could Talk, Striptease. But some of those ones are specifically about
Did you say Disclosure?
Disclosure.
That one's hot. Okay, that one's one of those hot films, and she delivers. Let me tell you though, because Sid Help is coming out, and I'm like, is this one of the like bosses from hell?
Yes.
But you know, like I said, I think Demi Moore knows. I trust that she knows where sex belongs.
So that's what her filmography says.
Yeah.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah.
Even looking at The Substance is sexless. That was her breakout. It won at Cannes. She lost Best Actress, but she got a huge career push. And that one was sexless too. So she knows where sex belongs. That's a great insight, Mia. She knows where sex belongs.
And she's, you know, in other words, you remember when she did Ghost and they were mad because she cut her hair? And they were like, we can't, because she was supposed to go in, you know, very traditional looking. And Demi Moore was like, no, and she cut her hair into that bowl cut,
really?
okay?
I didn't know that.
And so essentially, when you think back on how she delivers in that film, so much tenderness. She delivers a certain sexuality that is so muted, but you're understanding why Carl keeps coming by.
Yeah.
You know, there's this other element between her and Whoopi Goldberg that is also very sexy, but she delivers that with a bowl cut. She knows where sex goes.
She does. And the irony is that Patrick Swayze's hair is like twice as long as hers. It really is. Amazing. So this one, you were absolutely right. Better without the sex.
You know what though, but hats off to Reiner, because you know sometimes actresses make these suggestions and they're not heard.
100%, especially in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
Let alone before that, but yes. Yes.
And so when you think about Reiner, he has, at this time, he's got Misery. He does North, which is with a kid. He does The American President, which is with, you know, Michael Douglas, and The Ghost of Mississippi with Alec Baldwin and
I forgot about that one.
And Whoopi Goldberg as well. But you know, that says a lot about who he was as a director, because quite frankly, there are a lot of women who are probably on these sets making these suggestions and saying, hey, I don't think I should be coming out without my top on, you know? And the directors are like, no, this is the film. But, you know, for him to go, hey, this makes sense, and go, we can trust this, and finish off a film. There's no second deleted scene of there's no deleted sex scene. Yeah. Right? Where he made it and then he said, oh, you're right.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
This is somebody who listened to the people he worked with. So
and that goes for these other women in these other films too. Like When Harry Met Sally, you've got Sleepless in Seattle, you've got The American President. I mean, there's a lot of smart women in these. Well, said differently, this director is one that lets women be smart, that lets women put sex in the right place. That's one of his really great legacies. And A Few Good Men, looking at his filmography, it stands out. It's a bit more hard-hitting. It's a bit more dialogue and intensity-driven, but just what a great filmography from just a wonderful, wonderful American director. Now, you brought 4 sexless edits in cinema. I brought 1, and we're going to stay with our military theme. Do you know what our number 5 is? This is Sparta! 300 is next. All right, next we're talking about 300, which is the 2007 Zack Snyder, either the most homophobic or the most homoerotic film you have ever seen. It stars Gerard Butler, Lena Headey, Michael Fassbender, Dominic West, David Wenham, and a very sexy androgynous Rodrigo Santoro as the God King Xerxes, the king of Persia. There is so much to talk about with this, but let me just share with you the story briefly of the true 300. I have in my hand a book called The Sacred Band, 300 Theban lovers fighting to save Greek freedom. So here is the real story.
Sounds so sexy.
It actually was exactly that. So this is in almost 400 BC. What we think of as Greece was not Greece. It was separate city-states like Thebes, Sparta, Phoenicia, Syracuse, all these different states.
They're in linen.
Yes, exactly. Barely covering their manhood. So in the 1800s, a mass grave was discovered in the city of Thebes, and there were 150 male couples in this grave. So the true story about the 300 is called The Sacred Band. It was a military unit that was the most victorious in ancient Greece. For 40 years, they protected Thebes. And here was the concept. You had these Theban men who had wives and kids, and then they had a male lover who was also his sparring partner. He would take care of his uniform and his armor and all the weaponry, and they would fight together. So you
Like a
had wife
personal
and kids,
trainer?
personal trainer slash boyfriend. Often this man was younger. They were called a pedast, which is where pedophilia comes from. But these relationships were kept separate from their marriage. And the idea was that you became so bonded with your co-warrior that you would not want to dishonor yourself in front of him in battle. Okay, so when I heard about this concept, Mia, of the 300, I thought, oh, of course. So I have this male lover who's my co-warrior. I don't I don't want him to die, so I'm going to fight aggressively to save him. But that's not it. It's all about honor. I don't want to be dishonored in front of him. So this band of 150 couples would defend the heck out of Thebes, and they were successful for 40 years. It wasn't until Alexander the Great came along and defeated them, and then they were buried together in a mass grave. That is where 300 comes from. Cut to 2007, Zack Snyder, who is a...
I don't remember this in the movie.
This might be the biggest edit of sex. So in this one, it's just we moved to Sparta. It's just 300 male warriors who are feral and who fight wolves, and they're very like, fuck yeah, and they like to fuck women, and there's a couple of...
But they're friends?
But they're just friends. With six packs, with deltoids, with lats screaming out from behind these crimson capes, and they just wear little, basically, thongs. So the movie, which I love, it is based off of a Frank Miller novel. He also did the Sin City series. So this is high blood spatter. This is right when the blade comes down into flesh. We stop, and it goes into hyper slow motion, so you can see all of the blood and gore. It was kind of innovative at the time. There's a couple of anti-gay slurs, so it is homophobic, but also it's 300 guys in thongs in six packs. Like it's a very sexy movie.
I mean, but they're brothers. They're just brothers.
What did you think of this when it came out? Do you have any relationship to this movie? Do you like this movie? Do you have any time for this movie?
I'm gonna tell you. So sometimes if my nostalgia is like connected to something not great, it doesn't matter how good it was, I won't feel good about it. Okay. So let's say it's like a song and it's like somebody's breaking up with me, on the phone. That song could be good, but I hate the fuck out of that song. Right. I went to this movie on a date. I lived in San Francisco, and it was bad. It was so bad. What happened? His friend showed up to the date, and then I asked the concession stand people to fill up my soda halfway, and I literally threw a bottle of alcohol into the soda.
Oh, you mean you improved it?
I took it up because I was just like, I don't know why I had an attitude about this, but I did. I had an attitude about it. And anyways, I drank a lot at this movie. I drank a lot at this movie. But otherwise, I remember when it came out, this was before you could like book your seat. Right. So we had to get to the movie theater earlier to be in line. It was so packed. Remember the 2000s? You were in this long line and you're like, wait, is this the 7 o'clock line or and you'd be in the right line for a movie like this. It was a big show, and it was definitely for the manliest of men. Yes. Hello.
Yep, for sure. So, I mean, there's one sex scene in the movie when the king of Sparta makes love to his wife, and it's done in a very music video, slow motion, clipped kind of way. But honestly, there is something about this movie that has a little bit of incel energy. Women are there for us to be enjoyed. We're going to kill our enemies. I mean, it's very monotone. Halfway through, the god king Xerxes shows up. He is very sexy. I'm into androgynous people, and he has makeup. He's 10 feet tall, and so there's a lot of stuff here under the surface. But there is no way that they were going to, even in 2007, film a war epic and get a bunch of money. They got $65 million for this. To make it about 150 male couples, even though that this is a really fascinating piece of history. It's well published how sexually progressive Greeks and Romans were, And it's pretty sad that we have kind of backpedaled so far, but it's a different society and it's a different culture. But this was an incredible group of men who defended their country and their families. Anyway, that's our fifth entry, 300. It could have used more sex. It would never have been made.
But wait, when you were watching it back in 2007, did you think all of this stuff was missing?
Well, I knew the story. My friend RJ, who you know, he's an expert in Roman classics and Egyptology, and so we knew the story of the 300. And we still love anything swords and sandals. This is still a great movie. It's got some great action sequences. It's got some great lines. Our arrows will blot out the sun, and we will fight in the dark. It's very, and it's so hetero and over the top that it becomes, tolerable because it's super campy. There's a sequel that's also super campy. It cost $65 million to make, made almost $800 million. And again, that book is The Sacred Band, 300 Theban lovers fighting to save Greek freedom. That's by James Rahm. We'll include a link in our show notes. But anyway, those are the 5. I do have a couple of mentions, Mia, if you want to hear any of these mentions.
I'd love to hear your mentions.
Okay, so a couple other films that may have edited out the sex. Rocky 3.
Okay, who's he fighting in Rocky 3?
Apollo.
Okay.
So there's some jungle fear in and out of the ring. Maybe it's a cock ring. Okay, we're going to 1986. Top Gun, the beach volleyball scene.
Oh,
Come on.
There was some confusion. Yeah.
I wasn't confused. I mean, something happened in that locker room. Point Break 91. I mean, how deep were they undercover?
That one, there is something where you're like, what am I missing? What am I missing?
Interview with a Vampire 94.
Yeah,
actually,
that was missing a lot.
Are they lovers in the book version, the Anne Rice book version?
Oh, yeah. And the whole vampire series, all of those people are lovers.
They are, okay.
From Armand to Louis to...
Right.
There's a lot of sex in this series, and the way that they edited it out for this film was fine, but you already can tell something's up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Something's happening.
And it's not just vampire life.
It's boners.
It's boners. Vampire life is like thug life. It's not just thug life. There's something going on here.
I was going to say that very thing. Fight Club in 99. There could have been a scene between, Tyler Durden and, what's the other guy's name? Chuck?
Yeah.
No.
Not Chuck.
Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. I mean, you could have seen something happen like that.
Well, narcissism in and of itself.
There you go.
Is a love of
Who
self.
better to love than yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Fast and the Furious. A lot of homoeroticism going there. A lot of muscles.
Okay, a lot of.
The Hobbit trilogy. Wow.
He said the Hobbit
trilogy. All those dwarves.
I couldn't go through these.
Muscly dwarves. Cave diving.
Wait, Joey.
Not all that's in those mountains. A lot of hard rocks.
I think no, Joey. I don't know if they edited it out on The Hobbit.
Anyway, we've shared with you a bunch of films that edited out sex. We'd love to hear what you think. Please hit us up at our email. Like and subscribe if you'd like to hear what you are. Wait, what should our tagline be? What do people say?
You want to hear some more of this?
If you'd like to hear some more, like and subscribe. Follow us. We've got a couple of special episodes coming out. We're going to be reviewing Wuthering Heights.
Wuthering. Okay, Kate Bush, we got you, girl. We got you.
Emerald Fennell's new epic with Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie. And of course, we'll be coming to you live from the 90th Annual Academy Awards on March 15th.
When you say 98th?
98th. In 2 years, it's a centennial. Yeah.
90th.
90th.
Sounds like the 90th.
Oh, like, true. Okay. Yeah. 98.
But we're 98.
We're 98. That's better.
Okay.
I'll learn how to speak before next time. Mia, thank you for putting together this episode. I love thinking about these old movies and the sex that wasn't in them.
I mean, the confusion we all were living in.
Indeed. I did see what you mean.